Hello and welcome to Cloud Speed by Deloitte. In this regular podcast series, we'll delve into the world of cloud, answering some of those tricky questions, getting to grips with all that cloud has to offer, and keeping you up to speed on recent developments. So let's begin, shall we? Here's your host, Adam Gorguri.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to our next episode of Cloud Speed by Deloitte. I'm Adam Gogarty, a director in our cloud engineering practice at Deloitte, and I'll be your host for this episode. In an ever-changing regulatory and risk landscape, financial services organisations in the UK that are creating value through the exploitation of cloud services need to navigate a number of complex topics, such as data security, exit strategy, concentration risk, operational resilience, and more. Cloud is increasingly becoming an enabler for financial services organisations to address their growth ambitions. But how do they effectively use risk management to really unlock the power of cloud and all the benefits around innovation and costs that come with it? What do these businesses need to focus on, and how can they approach it? To provide you with our thoughts on this topic, I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague Edward Litchfield from our technology and digital risk practice.
Hi, I'm Ed, and I'm a director in our digital risk team, specialising in cloud governance, risk and control. I work with clients across the financial services industry in their pursuit of moving fast but safely to the cloud, and this can range from helping them navigate the regulatory requirements relating to cloud, as well as design and implementing effective governance and operating models.
Thanks, Ed, and my colleague Carl Irvine from our cyber risk practice.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I work in our cyber transformation practice in risk advisory. My expertise is working with global investment banking and insurance clients to understand their risk profiles and implement good practice mitigations. I've recently been working with clients to understand the resiliency risks of cloud hosting, particularly around how risks have changed from traditional on-premise infrastructure. Outside of work, I enjoy sailing and hiking in the Northumberland Hills.
Thanks, Carl. I do enjoy about your hikes. So look, thank you both for joining. I'm delighted to have you both on this episode to share your thoughts and experiences on this topic with our listeners. So, Ed, why don't you kick us off by sharing, I guess, your view on the key themes in digital and tech risk for those financial services organisations that are operating in the UK and are on their cloud transformation journeys?
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, and growth in cloud has been a megatrend over the last decade, with market experiencing triple-digit annual growth as recently as 2015. COVID has been another key driver of cloud adoption, with years worth of digital transformation in just months. But balancing speed and control in cloud adoption is one of the biggest challenges we see organizations grappling with. Now, cloud migration isn't just about moving to the cloud. It entails a state of continuous reinvention if cloud is to reduce costs and create new opportunities. But many organizations are going through significant digital transformation and cloud migration. A large proportion of these are doing so with the same risk management approaches that they've had for the last decade. We're seeing a few hot topics in particular. Architecting for the future. So when cloud first emerged, it was seen as a pure cost play. Whilst this can be the case in terms of being able to rapidly scale up capacity to meet peak demand, such as Black Friday, in a pay-as-you-go manner, many CIOs are moving away from that view. Rather, cloud is seen as an enabler to new channels, new customers, new products, and cloud is being architected to enable this. Now, from a risk control perspective, cloud also presents the ideal opportunity to design risk out rather than layer control on top. Organizations that are on the more mature end of their cloud adoption journey are architecting the cloud environment in such a way that enables easier switching between providers and reduces the risk of vendor lock-in or being tied to a specific vendor, as well as enabling the management of concentration risk in line with regulatory requirements. Adopting new ways of working. So adopting new ways of working to help remove friction from the governance process and support increased speed of decision making whilst remaining in control. Cloud cuts across functional silos and can't be viewed in a traditional risk silo of product risk, security risk, technology risk, etc., etc. Bringing together cross-functional teams from the business, technology, risk teams into a single delivery team to support the migration to cloud really helps avoid redoing work because of not considering risk control up front, and where possible, getting things right first time. Another focus area is around automation and controls as code. Risk and control teams are often seen as blockers rather than enablers in cloud adoption. And given the scale of adoption and increasingly needing to do more with less and the demand for risk control capabilities, be that people, process, or technology, demand is outstripping supply. The resulting gap between supply and demand is driving a need for investment to rethink the design and efficiency of risk control capabilities to increase speed and reduce cost. Many clients are now leveraging cloud and the services cloud provides as a key enabler to reducing the gap and giving and driving risk control automation. Using cloud and tooling it provides allows promotion of systems to production without human in the loop, and using pre-configured control blueprints or controls as code really can help reduce costs, increase speed, and result in fewer controls overall. And all of this is being done with a backdrop of regulatory compliance in the cloud, which is something many clients are trying to tackle. In particular, over the past few years, regulators have become increasingly specific on requirements around material outsourcing in the cloud. And whilst there has also been a convergence in some of that regulation, there are also now many and numerous regulatory requirements across various jurisdictions globally. Trying to navigate these regulatory requirements from the multiple geographies and key themes we've been seeing directly linked to regulation here in the UK and Europe include the following. Exit strategies, particularly in the context of public cloud and dealing with stressed exits, for example, the termination of an outsourcing arrangement or failure of a service, and unstressed exits, such as the deterioration of the quality of service or commercial renegotiation, etc., along with the corresponding exit plans for material vendors and cloud services. Material outsource requirements and corresponding regulatory notifications and meeting the regulatory requirements are a key theme as well. And then finally, concentration risk management, including how to measure concentration risk and its ultimate impact on cloud architectures, which I'll come on to shortly.
Well, gosh, it's clear there's a lot going on in this space, Ed, at the moment. It must keep you very busy, I guess. So I guess, Carl, the requirements from regulators seem to be perhaps adapting to this increasing consumption of cloud. So I guess what in your view is different about cloud that's driving that change?
Well, for around the last decade, regulators have had an increased focus on third-party risk across many facets, including exit planning, information security, data privacy, business continuity, fraud, for example. The focus on CSPs in the third-party bucket is the new element of this. When financial services organizations were making their first ventures into cloud, regulation and practices were evolving, with clients and regulators finding their way. There's been a steep learning curve for both our clients and the regulators in the journey to cloud. There's always been concern from regulators around data protection and privacy in the cloud, and certainly at the start of many of our clients' journeys to cloud, this was the main concern. Access to CSPs to understand how they control risks has always been very limited, and assurance is based on a large element of trust. We trust that CSPs are doing what they should do to protect our data, and we gain assurance on this via independent third-party reports. There has been movement both ways on this recently, and the CSPs have shifted away from a take it or leave it approach, as they have learned more about the expectations from FS organizations and the regulators. So the situation has improved and we can understand the risks better. As the use of cloud services has become more prevalent, what makes things different now is the concentration risks that the mass consumption of cloud services across the industry creates, particularly if we think about the risk that a large proportion of the running of the economy is centered in a few large cloud service providers. The regulator is keen to understand this systemic risk to the financial system. If a CSP has a major outage or goes bust, this will have a catastrophic impact on our economy. Therefore, the regulator expects FS organizations to have resilience in their CSPs, so that if there is a major and prolonged outage or failure, services can be recovered elsewhere.
Thanks, Carl. So I guess are there particular timescales around meeting these requirements, Ed?
Yeah, there certainly are. And from a UK perspective, the FCA updated guidance earlier this year to confirm that UK-only firms should focus on the PRA's outsourcing implementation deadline of the 31st of March 2022 as the definitive deadline before enforcement actions will commence. From a European perspective, the European Banking Authority, the EBA, guidelines on outsourcing come into force on the 31st of December this year. So the PRA gives the UK firms a few more months to update processes and legacy contracts to align with the PRA outsourcing supervisory statements. But any in-scope firms with European presence would still have to satisfy their EBA date. ESMA also published its consultation paper on guidelines on outsourcing to cloud service providers. And following consultation, it's due to publish its final report on the guidelines by Q1 2022. I think ultimately the expectation is these requirements will be subsumed into the wider Digital Operational Resilience Act, or DORA, that is currently being developed, but the principles are unlikely to change in the DORA regulation for cloud and outsourcing.
So there's a lot of regulatory consideration for entities in the UK, I guess, with dates already planned. And I guess, Carl, for those organisations that have operations outside of the UK, what are we seeing in other geographies?
Yeah, so the UK, US, and Singapore often lead in regulatory change, with regulators in other geographies following suit, and the journey to cloud has been no exception to this normal pattern. There are a couple of recent examples of change elsewhere worth calling out, with the first one being in China. So there's been a reluctance of the Chinese government to allow US technology companies access to the Chinese market, in part due to US data privacy regulations, which potentially allow US law enforcement agencies to access data stored by US tech companies, even if stored abroad. As a result, the Chinese cloud market is dominated by Chinese companies, with Huawei and Alibaba sharing over 50% of the market share. However, in the last year or so, we have seen AWS launch in China, which is provided through locally controlled data centers using specific AWS Chinese credentials. This helps to get around the potential issues with privacy. GCP also explored a similar isolated regional concept, but has been shelved for the time being. These arrangements can make it difficult for our clients to expand their cloud operations into China. In addition, an increased focus on data protection globally creates other challenges, sometimes in jurisdictions where specific laws didn't exist previously. For example, Saudi Arabia recently passed the Personal Data Protection Law, which prohibits personal data from being transferred out of the kingdom, with a few caveats. To adapt, global CSPs need to set up shop locally to access the market, similar to what we've seen historically in places like Switzerland. Do you have anything else to add on that, Ed?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Absolutely. I guess to pick up on the data protection, legal and regulatory developments specifically, they're also having an important direct and indirect impact on cloud adoption and risk management in the European context. The Schrems II ruling earlier this year by the Court of Justice of the European Union is a really good example. The ruling makes it significantly more complex for financial services firms to host data in cloud infrastructures in third countries that are not deemed adequate under EU and or UK General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. So firms are needing to identify and implement additional controls needed to bring the level of protection of the data transferred up to the EU standard, or essentially the equivalent. These can be technical, such as encryption, organizational, such as enhanced transparency and accountability measures, and or contractual, so for example, obligations to implement the technical measures.
So Ed, I guess there's a lot for organisations to think about. I mean, dates coming up, regulatory changes. So I guess from your perspective, how are we helping our clients to navigate these topics?
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, we've been helping our clients navigate these topics in a number of different ways. I guess, for example, on regulatory notifications and reg engagement strategies. We've worked with clients to help them develop reg engagement strategies in the context of their cloud strategy and architecture, really taking into consideration key aspects such as the overall risk appetite for the organization, concentration risk, as well as giving them, therefore, the confidence to engage proactively with regulators and the board in helping migrate to cloud. We've also worked with clients supporting them with material outsource notifications for cloud migrations. So that includes around requirements for the notification themselves, what a notification looks like, when it's required, and which regulation is really driving that notification. Many clients are also trying to navigate the multiple regulatory requirements that we've talked about some of today. And we've worked with them to harmonise those reg requirements, particularly across multiple jurisdictions, linking those requirements to control objectives, and producing specific control blueprints for key CSPs aligned to the shared responsibility models, both for the client, for the specific CSP, and I guess the overarching platforms. Another hot topic at the moment that we're supporting clients with is the development of exit strategies, particularly for the public cloud, and exit plans, again, typically for critical SaaS solutions. Importantly, and in line with the regulatory narrative, ensuring that proportionate and risk-based. And by proportionate, we mean to avoid slowing down cloud adoption or impeding deployment teams. And risk-based is really ensuring that it's linked through to the organization's business impact analysis processes done as part of a wider outsourcing framework, for example, and importantly, based on the criticality in the context of that organization. Now, we often see cloud cutting across functional silos in our client organizations, as it does with our own firm. So we often work in multidisciplinary teams, I guess combining cloud risk control specialists from my own team, cyber cloud specialists from Carl's team, and technical cloud engineering and migration expertise provided by teams such as yours, Adam, as well as working with our regulatory specialists from our EMEA Centre for Regulatory Strategy, or our ECRS team.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've certainly enjoyed working in those cross-functional teams. Look forward to more of that in the future. I guess, where do our listeners go for more information on this topic, Ed?
Well, on our Deloitte.com UK site, and specifically our digital risk pages, we've got lots of great thought pieces on cloud and digital risk more broadly. We also, as I said, work really closely with our EMEA Centre for Reg Strategy team, whose site on the website also has a wealth of information. I think importantly and really helpfully includes a really helpful financial services regulatory timeline tool. And that includes those regulations relating to cloud and provides a really clear and simple high-level view of recent and upcoming milestones.
Excellent. Lots of information out there for our listeners then. Well, it's been a delight talking through this topic with you both, so thank you very much for your insights as always.
Thanks, Adam. Been a delight speaking, and equally, if anyone listening does have any questions, do feel free to contact me on LinkedIn.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me. The same, if anybody would like to reach out, please do connect with me on LinkedIn.
Before we close off, we've got a round of cloud updates, and this week coming from Elliot Chappell, our Azure Lead Solutions Architect from Deloitte. Over to you, Elliot.
Thanks, Adam. So, in terms of Azure and what we can do to help address risks inside the cloud, there's a number of resources that exist within Azure to assess risk and compliance. A number of these are out of the box as well. So, in particular, you have a huge number of self-service resources, ranging from the Service Trust Portal, which can help with self-service audits and compliance of the actual Microsoft platform itself. So you can see what the independent third-party audit reports have actually said about Microsoft services. You have standard audit reports where Microsoft audits and submits self-assessments to its third-party auditors. So you can see the effectiveness and implementation of security, compliance, privacy controls. We also have the ability to use something called Compliance Manager. So Compliance Manager is a set of integrated solutions using AI to help improve data protection capabilities and your overall compliance posture within Azure. Compliance Manager enables you to manage your compliance activities in a single dashboard and provides 3 key capabilities which are relevant to today's discussion. So in particular, the risk assessment, so you can track, assign, and verify your own organization's regulatory compliance related to Microsoft Cloud Services. Your compliance score, so with every assessment that you do, you get a compliance score which gives you visibility into your performance, and recommendations. So the key here is how to address those controls gaps and how to improve data protection and prioritize your tasks. Azure also provides you and your line of business, domain risk, e.g. operational risks, IT operations and DevOps teams, additional resources that can help control and monitor your infrastructure on the Azure cloud and help you to become more secure and more compliant. The first of those is Azure Monitor. So Azure Monitor maximizes the availability and performance of applications by delivering a comprehensive solution for collecting, analyzing, and acting upon telemetry from the cloud and on-premise environments that are connected. It helps you understand how your applications are performing and proactively identifies issues affecting them and the resources they depend on. Other tools include Azure Sentinel, which is a scalable cloud-native security information and event management platform that uses built-in AI to analyze large volumes of data across the enterprise from all sources in a few seconds at a fraction of the cost. It includes built-in connectors for easy onboarding of popular security solutions and allows you to collect data from any source with support for open standard formats like CEF and syslog. Azure Security Center is a unified infrastructure management system that strengthens the security posture of your data centers and provides advanced threat protection across your hybrid workloads in the cloud, be it Azure or any other cloud or on-premise. Azure Service Health provides personalized alerts and guidance when Azure Services issues affect customers. It can notify you help you understand the impact of issues, and keep you updated as the issue resolves. It can also help prepare you for planned maintenance and changes that could affect the availability of your resources. Additionally, we have Azure Policy, which helps you govern Azure resources by creating, assigning, and managing policies. These policies enforce different rules and effects over your resources that help them stay compliant with your corporate standards and service level agreements. And this management and security can be applied at scale. We also have items such as Azure Blueprints, which enable quick, repeatable creation of fully governed environments. This service helps you deploy and update cloud environments in a repeatable manner using artifacts such as policies, resource groups, deployment templates, and role-based access controls. If you'd like to learn some more about the topics and tools that we've discussed today on the Azure platform, head over to the Azure documentation and just search for security. The results that will bring back will give you how-to guides, implementation patterns, and also just some general best practices for you as you start to manage risk and understand how you can use the cloud tools available to mitigate risks on the cloud.
Sadly, that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope you've enjoyed listening. If you have, please do share it. Don't forget to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn at Adam Gogarty, and check out our website at deloitte.co.uk/cloud. In the meantime, I'm Adam Gogarty, and you've been listening to Cloud Speed by Deloitte. Thanks for tuning in.